Have to. I have to complete my assignment before midnight. You have to wear a helmet when you ride a bike. We have to reserve our tickets in advance. They have to water the garden every evening. She has to visit her dentist regularly. He has to take his dog for a walk twice a day. You have to switch off all electrical appliances before leaving. We have to submit our passports for the visa process. I have to wake up early tomorrow for the meeting. They have to renew their contract before it expires. She has to prepare a report on the recent survey. He has to improve his grades to get into college. We have to check out by 10 a.m. from the hotel. You have to apologize for your mistake. I have to undergo a medical checkup next week. They have to secure their data with strong passwords. She has to buy a gift for her friend's birthday. We have to clean the house before the guests arrive. He has to save money for his upcoming trip. You have to update the software to the latest version. I have to learn how to cook Italian cuisine. They have to decide on the venue for the event. We have to fill up the application form carefully. She has to practice yoga to improve her flexibility. He has to stop smoking for his health. Has to. She has to finish her thesis by next month. He has to undergo a minor surgery tomorrow. The team has to win tonight's match to qualify. My phone has to be charged. It's almost dead. The car has to be repaired before we can use it again. This document has to be signed by an authorized official. The library book has to be returned by Friday. Dinner has to be ready by 7 p.m. when guests arrive. The project has to be completed by the end of this year. Every student has to submit their assignment by Monday. The application form has to be filled out in English. The payment has to be made in full by the due date. He has to obtain permission before making any changes. She has to report to the new office starting next week. The garden has to be watered during the early morning hours. The password has to meet the security requirements. This medicine has to be taken with food. The visa application has to include all supporting documents. The machine has to be turned off when not in use. He has to attend counseling sessions as recommended. She has to renew her membership to continue accessing the facilities. The form has to be submitted before the deadline. Our proposal has to stand out to win the contract. This agreement has to be reviewed by legal counsel. The team has to practice daily to improve their performance. Had to. I had to call off the meeting due to unforeseen circumstances. She had to sell her car to pay off her debts. They had to postpone their wedding because of the pandemic. We had to take an alternate route because of the roadblock. He had to apologize for his behavior. You had to see the doctor about the persistent cough. I had to learn Spanish for my job in Argentina. They had to cancel their trip last minute. We had to evacuate the building during the drill. She had to stay late at work to finish the report. He had to undergo extensive training for his new role. I had to admit I was wrong in the argument. You had to update your computer to prevent security breaches. They had to secure the area due to the VIP visit. We had to conserve water during the drought. She had to replace her lost passport immediately. He had to miss his favorite show to study for exams. I had to donate some of my books to make room for new ones. They had to adhere to strict guidelines during the experiment. You had to obtain a special license to operate that machinery. We had to change our plans due to the weather forecast. She had to wear glasses after her eye surgery. He had to start over after losing his job. I had to negotiate to get a better deal. They had to walk home after missing the last bus. Need to. I need to finish reading this book by tomorrow. You need to clean your room before going out. We need to discuss our plans for the weekend. She needs to focus more during lectures. He needs to invest wisely for his future. They need to improve their communication skills. I need to recharge my phone soon. We need to buy tickets before they sell out. You need to check the oil level in your car. She needs to apologize for her mistake. He needs to confirm his flight details. They need to protect their skin from the sun. I need to practice my presentation a few more times. We need to decide on a name for our new puppy. You need to verify the information before sharing it. She needs to take her medication on time. He needs to save his work frequently to avoid losing it. I need to make a dentist appointment. We need to be more mindful of our spending. They need to secure their home before leaving on vacation. You need to back up your important documents. She needs to learn how to swim. He needs to get a haircut soon. I need to start exercising regularly. We need to prepare for the upcoming storm. Needs to. The plant needs to be watered daily. The report needs to be completed by next week. The car needs to be serviced soon. His performance needs to improve. The computer needs to be updated. The room needs to be cleaned before the guests arrive. The application needs to be submitted before the deadline. Her technique needs to be perfected. The team needs to work on their coordination. The policy needs to be reviewed and updated. The agreement needs to be signed by both parties. The procedure needs to be followed strictly. The budget needs to be approved by the board. The design needs to be more user-friendly. The dog needs to be taken for a walk. The schedule needs to be more flexible. The data needs to be analyzed thoroughly. The machinery needs to be maintained regularly. The garden needs to be landscaped. The document needs to be proofread. The feedback needs to be considered. The inventory needs to be restocked. The project needs to be managed more efficiently. The security system needs to be upgraded. The curriculum needs to be diversified. Dare to. He dared to question the long-standing company policy. She dared to dream of a career in space exploration. They dared to start a business in a highly competitive market. I dared to speak out against injustice. You dared to try bungee jumping despite your fear of heights. We dared to propose a new solution to the old problem. He dared to venture into the unknown territory. She dared to stand up for what she believed in, regardless of the opposition. They dared to challenge the conventional wisdom. I dared to pursue my passion instead of a traditional career path. You dared to ask for a raise based on your performance. We dared to implement innovative teaching methods. He dared to break the silence on sensitive issues. She dared to enter the male-dominated field and succeeded. They dared to invest in renewable energy early on. I dared to travel solo around the world. You dared to audition for the lead role in the play. We dared to suggest changes to improve workplace culture. He dared to embrace his unique style in a conformist setting. She dared to launch an app that challenges social norms. They dared to make a documentary exposing corruption. I dared to write a novel that tackled controversial topics. You dared to advocate for mental health awareness at your school. We dared to organize a community cleanup initiative. He dared to pursue research in a niche and emerging field. Be able to. I will be able to travel next year after saving enough money. She will be able to speak French fluently with more practice. They will be able to expand their business with the new investment. We will be able to see the eclipse from our rooftop. He will be able to solve the problem with the right tools. You will be able to enjoy the concert more from the front row. I will be able to graduate if I pass all my exams this semester. She will be able to run the marathon with proper training. They will be able to make a difference with their charity work. We will be able to complete the project ahead of schedule. He will be able to repair your computer by tomorrow. You will be able to access the documents online. I will be able to cook dinner as soon as I get home. She will be able to attend the meeting via video call. They will be able to provide feedback by the end of the week. We will be able to reserve a table at the restaurant. He will be able to demonstrate his invention at the fair. You will be able to understand the concept with a bit more study. I will be able to participate in the tournament next time. She will be able to contribute to the project with her skills. They will be able to celebrate their anniversary in Paris. We will be able to reduce costs by switching suppliers. He will be able to finish the race despite the setback. You will be able to change people's lives with your work. I will be able to express my gratitude at the award ceremony. Be allowed to. You are not allowed to smoke in this building. Children are allowed to enter the park for free. Pets are not allowed to stay in the hotel rooms. We are allowed to use the swimming pool until 10 p.m. Visitors are not allowed to take photos inside the museum. Employees are allowed to work from home on Fridays. Students are allowed to access the library resources online. You are allowed to bring one carry-on bag on the flight. Spectators are not allowed to enter the field at any time. She is allowed to take a sabbatical year after 5 years of service. We are allowed to park in the designated areas only. You are not allowed to use mobile phones during the examination. Members are allowed to bring guests to the club. Children under 12 are not allowed to watch this movie without parental guidance. You are allowed to request a refund within 30 days of purchase. Visitors are allowed to feed the ducks in the pond. You are not allowed to disturb the wildlife in the national park. Residents are allowed to use the community garden. Participants are allowed to submit multiple entries in the contest. You are not allowed to wear shoes inside the house. Tourists are allowed to stay in the country for up to 90 days without a visa. You are allowed to express your opinions freely in the forum. Drivers are not allowed to exceed the speed limit. Patients are allowed to have one visitor at a time. You are allowed to take breaks during the workshop. Be supposed to. You are supposed to wear formal attire to the event. We are supposed to meet at 8 p.m. sharp. The train is supposed to arrive at 6:30 a.m. She is supposed to deliver the presentation today. The project is supposed to be completed by next month. He is supposed to call as soon as he lands. You are not supposed to talk during the performance. We are supposed to stay in our seats until the end. The meeting is supposed to last for about an hour. Children are supposed to be in bed by 9 p.m. The guests are supposed to arrive any minute now. You are supposed to turn off all devices before takeoff. We are supposed to check out of the hotel by noon. The agreement is supposed to be signed by both parties today. She is supposed to start her new job on Monday. You are supposed to keep this information confidential. The cake is supposed to be ready for pickup by 3 p.m. He is supposed to apologize for his mistake. We are supposed to gather all our belongings before leaving. The film is supposed to be a blockbuster hit. You are supposed to renew your membership annually. Students are supposed to submit their assignments by the deadline. The ceremony is supposed to begin at sunset. You are supposed to report any changes in your health condition. They are supposed to announce the winners at the end of the day. Be obliged to. We are obliged to follow the company's code of conduct. She is obliged to disclose any conflicts of interest. Employees are obliged to attend the mandatory training sessions. You are obliged to inform the authorities if you witness a crime. The seller is obliged to provide a warranty for the product. Parents are obliged to ensure their children's education. The contractor is obliged to complete the work by the agreed deadline. Drivers are obliged to have insurance. You are obliged to respect other people's privacy. The airline is obliged to compensate passengers for significant delays. Employers are obliged to provide a safe working environment. The tenant is obliged to pay rent on time. You are obliged to keep the rented property in good condition. The government is obliged to protect the rights of its citizens. Companies are obliged to follow environmental regulations. You are obliged to return the borrowed items in their original condition. The hotel is obliged to honor your reservation. Citizens are obliged to vote in some countries. You are obliged to adhere to the terms of the agreement. The manufacturer is obliged to recall faulty products. Landlords are obliged to carry out necessary repairs. You are obliged to keep your pet on a leash in public areas. The committee is obliged to review all applications fairly. Borrowers are obliged to repay their loans. The organization is obliged to report its financial activities. Be bound to. He is bound to succeed with such dedication. The team is bound to win with such a strong strategy. You're bound to find something you like in the store. They're bound to notice the mistake in the report. She's bound to get the promotion with her hard work. We're bound to face some challenges on this project. You're bound to feel tired after such a long journey. The movie is bound to be a hit given the star cast. He's bound to be late, he always is. This solution is bound to solve our problem. She's bound to be upset when she hears the news. You're bound to enjoy the concert, it's going to be amazing. They're bound to have a great time on their vacation. The plan is bound to fail if we don't consider all factors. He's bound to notice the new decorations in the room. This book is bound to become a bestseller. You're bound to improve with practice. They're bound to find out sooner or later. The news is bound to shock everyone. She's bound to say yes if you ask her nicely. We're bound to encounter some resistance to the idea. This technology is bound to change the industry. You're bound to make mistakes when learning something new. They're bound to be here by now. I wonder what's keeping them. He's bound to have a good reason for not showing up.